G'day folks, Scott here. Today I'm reviewing Lords of Chaos. This film was directed by Jonas Åkerlund. He used to be a drummer in a big metal band back in the day called Bathory, and since then he's been a director doing music video clips for like Madonna and whatnot. And his history shows in the editing of this film, especially in the first act. It's very choppy and very stylized. I struggled a little bit with it. I wasn't sure of its tone. Act 2 and 3, it really found its legs and finished strong, and I really enjoyed it. But whether I'd recommend someone to go, well, you can't really see it at the movies unless you're overseas now, but to get it, streaming services or buy it later, whatever, to recommend it to others, I think you either need an appreciation for alternate cinema, a love or at least appreciation of metal, specifically the darker side of it, or a fascination for true crime stories, because this ticks all those boxes. This is about Mayhem, who were a metal band, still are, back in the late 80s and early 90s. They developed a style of metal called true Norwegian black metal, and this is about the events in those band, and specifically that band was brought to worldwide notoriety through a suicide, a bunch of church burnings, and some murders. And I think had those things not happened, and they hadn't almost capitalized on those things as tools of promotion and marketing, nowhere near the amount of people who know this band and some of the others around them probably ever would have heard of them, in my opinion. So yeah, if you like all the things I mentioned, you should check it out. It's really violent. The events that they've covered in that, they did not hold back at all. No spoilers, but like I said, if you're going to watch this movie, you have prior knowledge. A big part of what brought that band to knowledge of people and infamous was their singer, dead, committed suicide, and his roommate, the guitarist in the band, Euronymous, decided instead of just calling him, letting people know that this had happened, he photographed the body and he manipulated the crime scene and moved a weapon and a knife, a gun and a knife, and rolled the body over a bit and took a photo, which many years later was used for Mayhem's EP. Obviously that caused a big stir, a lot of rumors. They say that he stole bone fragments and made necklaces out of it and all this kind of vile, grim shit. And then, a guy who came from another, rising metal band called Burzum, named Varg, comes into this story. And, then there's church burnings, and, Varg was a very hardcore guy. I think, you can watch a million documentaries about this stuff, and I'm not explaining it properly. I'm not pretending to be an expert on it, but things just spiraled out of control and became a pissing contest, and who can push who further, and things just spiraled. Church burnings and murder, and the film ends with the murder of Euronymous by his friend Varg over basically bullshit. The thing that makes all this very interesting is that Varg did many years in jail. He's been very vocal. So he did time for the church burnings, he did time for the murder, and he has a strangely popular YouTube channel. Many people subscribe to it, and especially lately he's been putting up videos consistently refuting this movie, talking it down, saying they're all idiots, and just stating his case. And it's weird to have a guy who committed a murder to be so prominently open about what he did. Although he has a very bizarre reasoning, and he says that he only killed him in self-defense, and that Euronymous had threatened to kill him and said he was going to stun gun him and take him to the woods and torture him to death and film it, and talked all this kind of shit. But Euronymous, and the point of this story, was a notorious bullshitter and big talker and puff himself up to look like this big man, but everyone knew he was full of shit. At least that's the way the film presents it. And, Varg drove 500 kilometers across the country to go and confront him, and there was a brutal killing. Stabbed him more than 20 times, stabbed him in the head, and killed him and left, and then obviously got imprisoned and so on and so forth. But, you know, he describes that stuff like almost like Euronymous had it coming. Like it's kind of weird to see. I don't want to promote the guy. You know, he's a bit of a racist and he's anti-Jew and all this stuff, and I'm not supporting or endorsing him at all. He has a huge following of people who have a very bizarre way of justifying his actions, but that's probably another story for another video. But getting off point, that's what the movie is. You either have a prior knowledge of it and you're interested in it, or you don't, and you'll either like it or you won't. I think that's all I got to say about it. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. I thought they did a great job. Once they got that first part of the film out of the way, which I found almost, immature, which I guess maybe was the director's point, because they were teenagers and they were dumb kids. Like, these crimes and this stuff wasn't done by men. It wasn't done by nefarious, grown men. It was done by stupid boys. By the end of it, in their very early 20s, if not still teens. And I think that's, shown as probably half the reason that, he presented it from that more childlike, immature aspect at the beginning of it. Once Dad kills himself, the film sets its tone, and I think, like I said, it was brilliant after that. But yeah, I just want to try to felt about the beginning. But yeah, I mean, the film itself, and apparently the book it's based on, says flat out when it opens, based on truth, based on lies, and I think that's, the thing they're taking. So with Varg being very vocal that it's all lies and stuff, they admit that going in. There's two sides to every story, but unfortunately in a lot of this stuff, the only two people who know the truth about this is Varg and the guy he killed, who can't speak for himself. So yeah, it's a pretty weird situation. So I don't know if I made you want to go and see this or buy it and check it out, but I think it was worth talking about, and I think the film is relevant and very well made. Just like I said, if you're easily upset by violence, the violence is brutal, unflinching. The stabbing scenes, two of them go for minutes with multiple stabbings, and it doesn't hold back. It doesn't glorify it. It obviously tries to present itself in the realest manner possible. And I've got to applaud them for having the balls to go out and put it like that. So, yeah, I'm rambling now. I think that's it. Thanks for watching the video. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you again soon.